easy stuff first. Can you just say and spell your first and last name for me and give me your title?
Sure. My name is Anat Sultan-Dadon, Anat-Sultan-Dadon, and I'm the Consul General of Israel to the Southeastern United States.
And we talked a little bit about this, but tell me how long you've been in that role. And for people who don't understand, can you tell us a little bit about what you do in that role?
So I've been in Atlanta for 5 years now, representing Israel to 7 southeastern states. And it is an incredible privilege to be posted to the United States, by far Israel's most important ally, into this region, which is in many ways so supportive of Israel. And now is actually a time when we especially need that support and appreciate the support that we're receiving.
And speaking of, things are very different now than when you first took over that role in 2019, was it? How have things changed for you, and do you think that the importance of your role has intensified?
I think that in many ways, October 7th has changed everything. It has changed everything for Israel, and to a large extent, it has changed the world. And our work, of course, has been affected and continues to be affected with the ongoing situation, with the ongoing war against Hamas in Gaza, and with Israel's security situation.
So part of your role is to sort of travel around in these 7 states and strengthen ties. What are you doing here in Knoxville in these few days that you're here?
I've had the privilege of meeting with the Jewish community yesterday evening. There's a wonderful, active Jewish community here. I'll be holding meetings with elected officials, with the university, and then heading back to Atlanta.
And can you get more specific about that? I imagine you mean you're meeting with folks at the University of Tennessee, and are there specific elected officials you're meeting with?
I'll be meeting with the mayor, with the congressman. We usually try to meet with elected officials at the federal level, state level, city level, in order to discuss our bilateral relations and also update on what it is that is going on in Israel.
As I'm sure you probably know, there have been many protests recently at the University of Tennessee, also at City Council. What is your take on those?
I think it is worthwhile to listen to what the Ayatollah's regime of Iran, Hamas and Hezbollah, terror organizations, what they have to say about these protests, about these demonstrations here in the United States. They are praising these demonstrations. And I think that really tells you all you need to know about what side and who they are aligning themselves, these demonstrators. I think that the sad reality is that so many of these demonstrations that are being falsely termed as pro-Palestinian are in fact doing a disservice to the Palestinian people. Because if people were to truly, genuinely care about the Palestinian people, they would be standing with us, supporting our efforts to free Gaza from Hamas, because the Palestinians deserve to be free of an oppressive terror regime that is willingly and intentionally sacrificing its own people, investing in the destruction of their neighbor rather than in building a future for their children, for their people.
And I want to get to a bit more of that in just a moment, but sticking with the protests at UT, part of the concern for folks who are there demonstrating, they want to see the university divest from some partnerships and business opportunities that are tied to Israel. What do you say about that?
I think that any attempt to boycott Israel, any attempt to bash Israel, to harm Jews, to bully Jewish students, I don't think that it has any place in America. And I think that we have heard leaders take a strong stand. The state of Tennessee has taken a strong stand against BDS, against boycotting Israel. I think it has no place, and I think that it should be addressed as such.
Is that part of your reasoning for meeting with UT today, is to encourage the university to not divest from some of these business interests?
I look forward to meeting with them and to discussing what we can do together in order to strengthen relations with Israel in the academic realm as well.
And before we move on to another topic, I just want to go back because when I asked you what your take is and what Israel's take is on the protests, you sort of went and said, well, look at what Iran says. But I want to know what you think about this and in your position.
I think it is horrible that in the public sphere, on streets, on university and college campuses, genocidal chants are heard. Chants that are calling for the elimination of the state of Israel, that are calling for the genocide of the Jewish people. This is what is standing behind the calls in so many of these demonstrations. I think it should be unacceptable. And I think that these demonstrators should be told that this is not only harmful to Israel or to the Jewish community. This is not what America stands for. They do not stand for the values that America stands for, because when they are calling for the genocide and for the elimination of the state of Israel, that stands in stark contradiction to everything that we all believe in.
And just a point of note here, to be fair, many protesters were not saying those things. They were saying, we just want to put a focus on Gaza and the suffering of the Palestinian people there. There were not many people that I heard in that who were calling for the elimination or genocide of, Israel.
I think even if they are calling for a ceasefire, the calls for a ceasefire should be directed at Hamas, who started this war. We did not choose this war. We were forced into this war with the largest massacre committed against Jews in a single day since the Holocaust. They are still holding 120 men, women, and children, including a 1-year-old baby, in captivity in Gaza. If one truly wants to see an end to this war, one should be calling on Hamas to cease their fire, to release the hostages, to surrender. The war could be over today. And that is why there is so much hypocrisy in these demonstrations. Rather than point the finger to Israel, they should be pointing the finger to those who instigated this war, to those who clearly state what their intention is. Their intention is genocidal. Their intention is the elimination of the state of Israel. They clearly state that they will commit October 7th again and again and again. That is not the side that these demonstrators should be standing on. If what they stand for is humanity, life, freedom, they should be standing with us to rid the world of these terror organizations.
Speaking of the ceasefire, as we know, in the midst of this war, many, many innocent civilians from both sides are being caught up and killed. This situation right now in Gaza is terrible when it comes to humanity. Just yesterday, on Sunday, Benjamin Netanyahu again sort of said, I'm not going to do a full ceasefire or agree to a full ceasefire. Do you support that? Do you think that that is the right thing? Or should both sides agree to a ceasefire completely in order to prevent more human suffering?
I'll start by saying what we all know. War is horrible. War is horrible, and innocent people die in war, which is why Israel has never chosen war. But unfortunately, this is a war that we must win, because the alternative is to continue being slaughtered. And that is not an option for any sovereign nation. With regards to a ceasefire, there is a clear plan on the table, presented also by President Biden, that Israel has agreed to. The side that has not agreed to this plan is Hamas. That is where the questions should be pointed at.
When it comes to aid getting to Gaza, there also has been criticism from the UN and some other organizations that Israel is not allowing aid to smoothly get to where it needs to go, and people are suffering and on the brink of starvation because of it. Is there a better way for Israel to allow at least aid to get there?
Unfortunately, there are a lot of falsehoods that are being circulated in the media, in the international arena, in the United Nations. Israel is not the impediment to aid going into Gaza. Israel is allowing every single aid truck to go into Gaza. All of the aid that is coming in, Israel is allowing for that to enter Gaza. The problem is on the other side. The United Nations, the international aid organizations that are not managing to distribute the aid inside Gaza. One of the reasons is that Hamas is not only looting these aid convoys, but intentionally trying to target these convoys, trying to target the aid workers because it does not want to see the aid reach the Palestinian people. But the reality is that even as we speak now, on the Gaza side of the border, there is aid of over 1,000 trucks waiting to be distributed to the Palestinian people. It is sitting there. Sometimes it is rotting because it is sitting there waiting for so long because it is not being distributed. Israel has allowed for corridors in pauses in order to allow for the aid convoys to pass safely, in order to ensure that it reaches the civilians. But unfortunately, we are operating in a reality that is very complex because that is what Hamas has created and is intentionally creating on the ground.
Does Israel take any responsibility for prolonging this war?
Israel is doing what any sovereign nation has the duty and responsibility to do. We are acting in order to ensure that Hamas never be able to carry out what its leaders say they will carry out. We cannot allow for them to carry out another October 7th. We cannot allow for them to have the means and capabilities to do so. Any sovereign nation would act in the same way.
What will it take to end this war?
All it would take is for Hamas to release the hostages and to surrender. That is all that it will take. Not only allowing for Israelis to be safe, because in southern Israel, we still have 60,000 displaced Israelis. We also have 60,000 displaced Israelis in northern Israel because of Hezbollah attacks on our northern border. But in southern Israel, if we want to see security for our civilians on our southern border, all it will take is for Hamas to surrender and release the hostages. We can start rebuilding the devastation in southern Israel, and Gaza and the people of Gaza hopefully can have leadership that starts dedicating itself to building a better future for the Palestinian people in Gaza, and not a leadership that is dedicating itself to the destruction of Israel.
What has it meant since October 7th for the rise of anti-Semitism that we've been seeing? What has this meant for the community of Jewish people, not only here in the U.S., but across the world?
Worldwide, it's been incredibly concerning. For years, for decades, we have all heard the repeat of the phrase, never again. And all around us, we are seeing that once again. We are seeing that once again, Jews are being targeted. Jews are being targeted at universities, in the streets. We have seen, even here in the United States, assaults on Jews. I think that no society should allow for this anti-Semitism to exist and to be legitimized. It should be condemned by everyone, and I think that very decisive measures need to be taken, because it is not just about the Jews. It is about what kind of society do we live in. If a Jewish child is afraid to be recognized as being Jewish for fear of being attacked, be it in elementary school, in middle school, in high school, or in university. And currently, there are children who are afraid. This is not a society that any of us want to live in.
Even if, say, miraculously the war would end tomorrow, how long do you think it might take for relations to heal and for wounds to heal on both sides, where we could all come together again? Or is that never a possibility?
I think there is always room for optimism. And I think it is ultimately up to leaders to make courageous decisions so that we not only can heal, but so that we can look to a better future. And we do have leaders in our region that have made that decision for the benefit of their countries, of their peoples. We have seen it in the past in 1979 with then Egyptian President Anwar Sadat. We saw it in 94 with the King of Jordan. We saw it more recently, 3 years ago, with the signing of the Abraham Accords with the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Morocco. This is a future that we can see in the changing landscape in the Middle East. And I hope for the Palestinian people's sake, not only for Israel's sake, that they will have the leadership that they deserve, that invests in building a bright future for their children, for their people, rather than continuing to perpetuate the delusion that there will be self-determination for the Palestinian people at the cost of the existence of the State of Israel. That is a delusion that needs to stop. And Palestinian leaders and the international community need to start telling the Palestinians the truth. If they seek self-determination, it will have to be alongside the State of Israel.
And because you brought it up, how do you see that working? How do you see a free Palestinian state working, and where might that be?
There have been so many solutions on the table for this conflict. Starting from the 1947 United Nations Partition Resolution, after 48, after our declared independence, there have been so many solutions on the table. I do not think that the problem is what the solution looks like. Up until now, the problem has been that Palestinian leadership have refused to accept any solution if it meant accepting the fact that Israel continues to exist. That is what needs to change in the equation.
And they're just kind of wrapping up here because you're here in our community and you've sort of been meeting and will be meeting with other folks. What is your main message that you're hoping to get across while you're here?
Most importantly, I would like to thank our friends because there are loud voices of hatred outside, but we know that they do not represent the majority. We know that they, here in Tennessee, we know that they do not represent the people of Tennessee. We know that they do not represent the people of Knoxville. And I would like to express appreciation to the different figures that I will be meeting with for their friendship, for their support in Israel and in the strong relations that I know that we will continue to enjoy.
Thank you very much. Is there anything else you would like to add that I didn't ask about?
Thank you. I think we're covered.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.